Welcome to Reshair on ESPN 730. For the next hour, your host, Chris Reshaar, will bring fresh air to your financial needs. Excite, educate, and empower you to make sound financial decisions. Chris is a seasoned licensed mortgage consultant with Movement Mortgage, equal housing lender, originator license number 117266. Now, here's your host, Chris Reshaar.
Good morning, Charlotte. Chris Reshaar here, back for another episode of Reshair Radio. I'm your show host. I'm a senior loan officer with Movement Mortgage. Movement Mortgage, by the way, is an equal housing lender, NMLS license number 117266. If you have never listened to Reshair Radio, we're excited to have you for the first time. Each and every week, we are here really to excite, educate, and empower Charlotteans to make sound financial decisions, just like the opener says. But how do we do that? We do that, or how do I do that, really? At the end of the day, it's my show, I guess, right? But I do that by bringing in expert contributors that are a part of my show each and every month, and also local experts in our community. And today we have several people that are going to be featured on our show. But by bringing in local and expert contributors, we bring in hot topics that are related to real estate, finance, investing, you name it, lots of financial topics. And those people will bring a new and fresh approach to how we look at finances or real estate, et cetera. So without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and intro my guest today and also intro my expert contributor. So later in the show, we are going to have Adam Kunda from National Credit Care. Adam's been on the show with me for a couple of years now. He and his team at National Credit Care will do credit cleanup and credit counseling and really help strengthen somebody's credit report and give them wise counsel. He's going to be joining us for the last segment of our show today. But we're going to go ahead and introduce Becky Radhuber and Tracey Henson from 123 My New Home. Welcome, ladies, to the show.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Are you excited to be here?
I love it.
Super excited.
Well, really excited to have you both here, too. So what I'd like to do is, why don't you tell me, I understand that the company's based out of Indianapolis, 123 My New Home. And really, you focus helping buyers in many cases buy new homes and even buy existing homes, but there's kind of a new home purchase focus. Am I right on that?
New home purchase focus for buyers, first-time home buyers. It's definitely a focal point, but we're growing.
Okay.
This market is, offering so much opportunity, and I think we're going to expand probably to 20 people by the end of this year and just bring more value to clients.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about your background here in just a minute. But Becky, why don't you get us started? And I understand you're the broker in charge here for the North Carolina, South Carolina, for those two states. Is that right?
Right.
And you've been doing this since 1996.
96. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Me and this crazy one next to me.
So how did you get started in the business?
So I guess I grew up knowing the influence realtors had on people, just people, everyday people wanting to buy or sell a home. And realtors brought so much value to that transaction. And I grew up thinking, how could I perfect or learn so much information and be able to share it every day and just keep growing and growing and growing. And that's the real estate offers that. It gives you a chance to, pick up on new construction, resale, loans, appraisals, inspections, and just learn as much as you possibly can learn and share the information and bring a lot of value.
I love that. I have a client that I've been working with recently, and he went under contract and he worked directly with the seller, and there was a title issue on the seller side. The seller didn't quite understand why the buyer couldn't close. We kept trying to tell the seller it's not because of the buyer, it's because you don't have clear title. And it drug on for 5 months, and at the end, the deal ended up falling through. And then everybody was wondering who's going to give the money back. And I strongly encouraged the buyer to get a realtor. And so we found another house, and we're closing a USDA loan in like 4 weeks from beginning to end. Wow, I said awesome. The realtor is the one that held it together. I said, if you don't have anyone representing you, there's nobody advocating and holding the other party accountable. So many people just think that realtors put a sign in the yard, then run, right?
Yeah.
And that's so far from the truth. Realtors don't even get a day off. There should be a National Realtor Day Off holiday because there is no such thing. Y'all need a day off.
Yeah, we had a conversation on the way over, and I said, people don't realize that there's so many realtors out there today, but this is a good market. There's a lot of survivors right now, but when that market corrects, you need people who have been through it, who have walked the walk and talked the talk.
And who are doing this as their full-time job. It's
That's
not
right.
that they're just doing something on the side. So they're basically putting you in their schedule when they've got time to do it. You need somebody that's committed 100%.
I totally agree. So you previously worked, Becky, with a builder, and tell me how that experience flows into the company that you're helping to run now.
Okay, so back to the correction. So the market corrected in 2008. This builder grew and grew and grew exponentially over the course of time to today. And the training and the value brought to me as an agent was remarkable. So today, my goal would be to take a group of people who lived through that correction and bring the value of what we learned and the pitfalls, and hopefully save a lot of that roller coaster ride for either the buyer or the seller. So it's the people that we put together today. I don't necessarily want a bunch of new people who are green. I'd rather have folks working for me who have lived it. They know their financing. It's the most important thing we could do for our buyers.
I would agree.
Is to bring them the best
The mortgage
loan
guy's
programs.
agreeing, by the way, folks. Go ahead.
And just taking seriously that what their needs are more important than the transaction I could possibly complete quicker if I just slam you into this or do this.
The easy approach, right?
Yeah.
Well, I will want to just quickly jump in here. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Chris Reshair, host of Reshair Radio, and we've got Becky Radhuber and Tracey Henson in the studio today from 123 My New Home. And we've got some great topics planned out. We're just kind of getting the intros taken care of. So one last question for you, Becky. What do you like most about being a realtor?
So I could have done a canned response to that, but when I thought it through, I thought what I like most about being a realtor is that I'm still a realtor. I kept going even through the downturns, and I think that's a success story in itself. Just what I've learned, what I can bring to people from that experience. So still being here is what I like best right now.
Cool. Awesome. Well, appreciate the perspective. I've too managed to get through those years without losing my home to foreclosure, but it was tough for a lot of people, and a lot of people didn't make it. But all right, well, let's slide over to you, Tracey. So you are, I guess, really more of a team lead, but realtor doing buy side, sell side.
Correct.
And working both North and South Carolina as well.
Correct.
So tell me how did you sort of get into the real estate business?
Okay, well, Becky and I had met waiting tables, and like she said, we kind of just sat down one day and said,
Well, I was a bartender.
but excuse me.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse
'Cause
me.
that
And I
takes
was
more
the
skill.
lowly, right, and I was the lowly waitress that worked in her
Cocktail
bar.
waitress, yeah.
So, we just sat down one day and thought, gosh, what can we do? And like she said, it was something that we both, I think, felt drawn to do because it was something that we knew that we could add value to. So we started right then. We got our salesman's license, went straight and got our broker's license, and then ended up, she went into new construction. I went into resale. And then we ended up flipping. So we've both been on both sides of it. So then I went in new construction as well, and then back into resale general brokerage. And I think that's important because we both have been on both sides. We do get the building process. We get every step of the way what the process is about. And I think that makes us well-rounded, that we can advise our clients better as far as what's going on.
That's really cool. So I appreciate your perspective, and it's kind of fun to see that because I too myself have bought new construction, and it is a different process. And just because the builder has to do a punch list at the very end to make sure, that all the holes have been filled doesn't mean that that house was built properly.
Right.
And that there aren't structural issues or studs that should have been in a certain spot that aren't. And you understand, both of you, the power of having an inspection, multiple inspections along the way to hold that builder accountable to make sure your home is safe.
Yeah, especially in the type of market we're in today, where it's furious, fast and furious building, and maybe that quality isn't there. So do you know what to look for? Do you know what the pitfalls are? We do.
Right.
We've lived it.
Because you've lived it for many years. So very cool. I would really, really, really appreciate that perspective. So we're going to take a quick break here in just about 2 minutes. But real quick, why don't you both just share with me, what are your perspectives on the housing market here fall of 2017 in the Charlotte metro area?
I would say growth, but correction, it's coming. It's going to happen. So if we start thinking ahead now and preparing folks for that.
So we're still in a situation, though, where I'm still seeing multiple buyers on certain properties in certain areas.
We're still in a really good market, really strong market. Like you said, in certain areas,
it's not everywhere.
It's not everywhere, and it's funny because we're working with a situation right now. I did a listing presentation last week where the seller was going to make upwards to close to $100,000. Amazing. She loved us because, we gave her wonderful news. I'm going on one tomorrow where they're probably not even going to break even. So it's different, and it's different for every situation. That's why it's important to have a good realtor sit down in front of you and show you what this market means to you and what value
Absolutely.
Your property has brought.
Yeah, your truth.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we have an interesting topic today. We're going to be talking a little bit how to help sellers understand how to accept the best offer. So if there's multiple bids, you need to understand, as the seller of a property, whether you're getting ready to list or you have your house under market right now, how do you determine the best offer that comes in? Because we really are still seeing situations where more than one buyer is putting in an offer. And some of the answers and strategies that we're going to talk about a little bit later in the next segment will surprise you. Not every seller takes the highest bid. Did you know that, right? So our listeners might not know that. We know that because we see it every day. So we're going to be talking about 9 key strategies. We're sorry about that, folks. We're going to be talking about 9 key strategies. I think that's my signal to go to break. What do you think?
It wasn't
Glad
me.
it wasn't my phone.
I think it's, So anyway, so we're going to wrap up this segment. Again, we're here in the studio with Becky Radhuber and Tracey Henson with 123 My New Home. And we're coming up on our topic of helping sellers understand how to accept the best offer. So please stay tuned and we'll be right back. This is Chris Reshaar, your host of Reshair Radio. As a mortgage professional, we interact with several industry-related professionals, and we see the good, the bad, and the ugly. When I have a choice to select a closing attorney either to purchase or do a refinance, I choose John Ringer with Hutchins Law Firm. He is a legal professional, and he covers commercial and residential transactions. More than just a closing attorney, John wants to be your attorney for life. He can provide you insights you need to make accurate and informed legal decisions. As a Charlotte native, John has witnessed the tremendous growth and development of our city and region. As a part of Hutchins Law Firm with more than a quarter century of experience and 400 years of collective combined legal experience, they have what you're looking for. They have offices in Charlotte, Fayetteville, Wilmington, and Columbia, South Carolina. Please give John a call if you need an attorney, the right attorney, at 980-275-9810. That's 980-275-9810. Welcome back to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshaar, licensed loan officer with Movement Mortgage. Yes, I do mortgages for people each and every day, refinances and purchases, but you don't want to sit and listen to an hour worth of show on mortgage lending because nobody really likes the mortgage process, but I guess at Movement Mortgage, it's a pretty good system. So happy to be working with a great company. Movement Mortgage is an equal housing lender, and my license number is 117266. If you were just tuning in, we have Becky Radhuber and Tracey Henson from 123 My New Home, and both are realtors, brokers, etc., who help buyers and sellers. But we have a great topic that we've decided to bring to you this Sunday, and that is really if you are thinking about selling or you have your home on the market right now, we want to educate you on how do you know what is the best offer to accept, because in many cases, if your home is properly staged, ready for sale, ready to go. You've done everything that Becky and Tracey told you to do to get top dollar for that house. You very well could have a multiple bid situation where more than one buyer, because we do have a lack of supply, ladies. Is that right?
Correct.
Still a lack of a low inventory. You could have more than one offer on your home. And surprisingly, the highest price isn't always going to be the offer that should be accepted. Yes,
Correct.
Price is important, but it doesn't always mean price will win the game. So we've got 9 key strategies or concepts that we're going to be sharing with you today. So again, if you are thinking about selling your home here in the near future, please make sure you are listening carefully to the next 2 segments. So, all right, so let's start us out. I understand. Let's go with element number 1, which is understanding due diligence and earnest money. So as the seller, when you get an offer, usually the buyer will present you a contract, and they also present you with a due diligence check and an earnest money check. Ladies, why don't you tell our listeners what those are to begin with?
Basically, the due diligence check, that's the one that I think everybody's kind of digging in right now.
And it's kind of new, right? It's new to real estate.
It's
a few years ago, it was implemented.
Correct. It was implemented because there were buyers that were getting out of transactions. The seller had taken the home off the market for a certain amount of time and then got absolutely nothing for it. So the due diligence fee goes directly to the seller, and for no reason whatsoever can the buyer get that money back. So it's more, saying thank you, Mr. Seller, for letting, us do our due diligence and for taking your house off the market, and letting us do what we need to do. But we make sure that the buyers understand that, hey, if you change your mind, if the house doesn't appraise, if you can't get the loan, whatever, that check does not come back. And I've never had it go back. I mean, I guess if a seller decided to, but that doesn't happen. Yeah.
Because they could have sold the home to somebody else potentially.
Correct.
And they took the house off the market. So absolutely, there's a risk for the seller there. So the due diligence fee really is a contribution to the seller that just goes to them, doesn't come back. Becky, why don't you tell us about what the earnest money deposit is then?
So it's the good faith, the skin in the game. It's the money that goes to the attorney or is held by, sometimes it's held by the realty company, but mostly to the attorney is preferred. And that check, that's not as much on the hook during the due diligence period. If that due diligence period expires, then your earnest money is on the
risk.
Hard,
yeah,
right?
Risk.
It has to be forfeited back to the seller. So at the end of the day, when you go under contract as the buyer, you're given a certain number of days to do your investigating or what we call the due diligence period. So let's just say that's 3 weeks, for example, here on the studio. You'd have 3 weeks to have your appraisal performed, have your home inspection taken care of, and 3 weeks to also make sure that you can get your loan approved. It won't always be ready to sign, but as long as you can get most of the paperwork done and get a thumbs up from your lender, then you're in good shape. After that hard date, which is usually 5 p.m. on whatever that date is.
5 p.m., whatever that day is.
You decide to move forward and your loan falls through, then that additional earnest money check goes to the seller as well. And honestly, it's a smart system because I think years earlier, there was a lot of court litigation and small claims courts where people, were suing over $1,000, $2,000 when the contract has just gotten smarter so that there is some compensation for the seller. So if you're thinking of selling a home, strategy number 1 is you need to really understand the due diligence window and the money that you're going to be accepting on that offer. So why don't you briefly talk to me about how a due diligence check can affect somebody's decision in a multiple bid situation?
Well, obviously, and depending on which party you're representing, but obviously if you represent the seller, you're going to want the strongest due diligence fee possible.
Right. So if it's a big fat due diligence check, and they don't have to give it back to the buyer.
Exactly. And then that just shows the seller, hey, they really want my house.
They're
really
serious, want my
house. And the likelihood that they're going to do something, whether it's
everything
back
they
out
can,
or negatively affect the loan, they are all in and they're going through with this if at all possible.
Right. So it might be you have a healthy due diligence check, but you might have a bid that's slightly higher.
Right.
But it might be more important to you to grab that guaranteed money and know that they're really serious over someone that's offering a minimal due diligence. Because I've seen agents submit contracts with a 0 due diligence.
Right.
Not many sellers in our market are going to okay that, right? Because it shows no commitment.
You're seeing that now?
I've seen it
shocks
over
me.
time.
Yeah.
Not often.
Not as much now, but
Yeah.
we've definitely seen it.
But the point is,
especially investor deals,
a low
we get
one
those.
versus a large one
Sure.
may be the tipping point
That could tip
for
it,
that offer, even if it's slightly lower in price.
And especially if it's been a situation that the seller has already had a contract fall through.
That's right.
Definitely, they're going to want that money up front.
Absolutely.
They're going to want a good check.
Well, perfect. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshatar, and we're in the studio here this Sunday with Becky Radhuber and Tracey Henson with 123 My New Home. And we're really talking about helping sellers to understand how to accept the best offer. We've talked about due diligence and earnest money as one key element. The next one is really understanding the difference between pre-qualification and pre-approval. So can you explain the difference? Let's see how we can test these ladies. If not, I'll help you along the way.
We just had Terrence in there. What did Terrence say? One of our lenders came in to do a meeting, and he just said, "This one, the pre-qual is just not even worth the paper it's written on," and that was coming from a lender, and
Right.
you probably know the same
Exactly.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, he was adamant, and we have been for years. It doesn't matter that you can pick up a phone, speak to anybody out there to pull your
1-800
credit.
somebody, right?
Yeah, because at that point that's not even a half a step into this process. So the key is to find a realtor that can tell you what your options are first, because you're not getting locked into anything with anybody who doesn't have your best interest at heart. Find a realtor that's going to tell you what your options are, what your possible loan programs are, and they're all based on your truth, not anything else except for where are you coming from at this moment. And then get them your documents. It's about your tax records. It's about your tax returns, pay stubs, bank statements. Now this will take a couple of days, but it's the best couple of days you could spend, because at that point you're empowered. That letter says that this lender has committed, based on everything they've seen at this point, to fund
The loan, as long as the situation doesn't change and you're still employed,
Exactly.
Yeah.
the loan should go through.
And in a fast-paced market, you don't have time to leave the home, fall in love with the home, leave that showing, and now we're all standing in the driveway looking at each other saying, well, we got to go to the lender now.
Right,
We got to get all
exactly.
this.
That's
It's
too
gonna
late.
Take a couple days. It's too late.
And that's what we explained to the seller, that, hey, these guys didn't just pick up the phone and they didn't just pull their credit and, run a little debt to income over the phone. These buyers are serious buyers. They've gone as far in the process as they can, and that just helps the seller realize which offers are going to be stronger based on how much, again, the buyers put into the deal.
And Tracey, that's the key element, right? With element number 2 is understanding the difference. The seller who's trying to figure out how to accept the best offer is going to lean toward anyone that's already been through underwriting and been fully pre-approved, meaning paperwork has been reviewed by a live underwriter. And so you know it because you're experienced in the business, but not every pre-qualification or pre-approval letter is the same.
Sure.
So it depends on the mortgage company or bank that you're operating with. And most of the time, we can sniff out whether it's real or not. But that seller is going to make a decision. If 3 offers are coming in all at about the same price, that pre-approval might make a difference as whether you get your dream home or not.
Correct.
So, all right, let's go to number 3. Understanding the reputation of the lender can be something to consider. What do you think about that?
I mean, that's huge.
I'm staying neutral over here,
Yeah.
other than I know I work with a great company.
I mean, it's huge, building those relationships, and that's why that's why we do what we do, so that when people do ask for a referral or when we do get these offers in, that we can say, hey, we have worked with this lender. Man, they close as many loans as they physically can. This guy will drag these buyers over the line. I mean, we can honestly give our opinions and let our sellers know that, barring that, something major doesn't happen, this guy or, lady, they know what they're doing and they're serious about their job and they're going to be truthful and honest. And it's not just somebody out there,
And you see themes, right? You see themes in the industry,
Sure.
and not all companies are created equal.
Not
And
at
so
all.
you're able to express some of
Sure.
those trend lines that you see from company to company and give them thoughts on what might be in their best interest.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it goes back to value again. They're just as much on the hook for what they can bring to the transaction as I am, or Tracey is, the lender needs to think outside the box. They need to be creative. They need to be angling at every moment as to how am I going to make this the best loan for this buyer. And boy, there are 50% of the lenders that'll do that, and there's 50% that won't. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, at whatever stage in their life that they feel like, hey, I've got so much business, on to the next. I don't have to really be creative here. That is huge. It's huge. So commitment, I'll commit. That's what Tracey and I were talking about too. I'll commit to my client. They'll commit to me. And that's the same relationship with our lenders. Guys, we're going to send you the business if your loan fits our needs, that buyer's needs. But you got to commit to us too. You got to be breaking it at every angle to make this deal happen.
I appreciate that knowledge. And the seller needs to understand that, that reputation of that lender can sometimes change what you might recommend in terms of the offer to accept if there's more than one offer. So, all right. So let's hit the fourth one here real quick. It's understanding the reputation of the buyer's agent. So the seller needs to consider perhaps the professionalism of the buyer's agent. Is that right?
I think it kind of goes back to like what we said about the lender, especially if you've been out there doing business as much as we've been. We know that there's certain buyer's agents that will do whatever to get a deal done, and they're dug in, as opposed to me feeling like I'm representing both the seller and the buyer.
Perhaps a part-time agent that's not that experienced is
they're not that experienced, or they just whatever their reason is. I mean, we hear it all the time. They just disappear. And you're working the transaction yourself. Yep. So, we just always try to educate our sellers, as to what's going on and who's involved in the transaction. And, if it's a good agent, then definitely we're quick to say, this guy does a lot of business, or girl.
Yeah,
sorry, I don't know why I keep saying guy, girl. And the deals that we've had have been good deals. So, it's just all about, once again, educating, whether it's your buyer or seller. You just have to educate them through the process as much as possible.
And telling them, don't take it personally. We're not here to make friends with all these people, right? So if they don't do a good job, it's...
But, if you had an amazing experience with an agent, a buyer's agent, and you had... Conversely, maybe perhaps not an amazing experience with a different realtor.
Absolutely.
That may come into what offer you accept. Sure. It sounds crazy, but this is what we're here to educate you folks about, right? We're bringing you great hot topic information related to getting your home sold and how to accept that best offer. So we're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey, Chris Reshatar here from Reshair Radio with Movement Mortgage. Are you still sitting on a high interest rate mortgage loan? Are you thinking about consolidating, paying off some of those credit card debts, or maybe doing some home improvement? Now's the time to call, because interest rates are still at a 40-year low. My number is 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. I can also be found at themortgagegenius.com. Movement Mortgage is an equal housing lender, NMLS license number 117266.
Welcome back to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshatar, licensed loan officer with Movement Mortgage. If you've been tuning into our show, we've been talking about how we can help sellers understand which is the best offer to accept in a multiple bid situation when you're selling your property. We've got guests Becky Radhuber and Tracey Henson from 123 My New Home here in the studio. Ladies, so let's pick it up where we left off. We were just talking about a couple of different things. Understanding due diligence period and how much money you get can affect whether you accept an offer. Understanding if the letter, pre-qualification letter or pre-approval, which one. We also talked about understanding the reputation of the lender and the realtor that are involved on the transaction on the other side. So the next one is really understanding the timing. So when a contract is written and presented to you, let's assume that you're representing the seller and you're helping them navigate how to accept the best offer. How does the timing on the contract impact their decision making?
I mean, it could be everything, because it's depending on whatever their situation is. Has the seller found another property?
Okay.
Are they wanting to build a house? Like, what is their situation? And it always amazes me every day that when I get offers on our listings, that the other agent didn't pick up the phone to ask me,
hey, by the way,
hey, what's the deal with your seller? Did they need to move out in like 30 days? Would a quick close work? Or if we could extend it, 45, 60 days, would that work? And you would think with all of these multiple offers coming in that, the agent on the other side would want to know that just to make their buyer's offer stronger, but it doesn't happen. But that can be huge, because you just never know what's going on with the seller and what time frame they're going to need.
You're right. Absolutely. And I have a couple of realtors that I work with that consistently write aggressive timelines using Movement Mortgage because we're known for speed. And that's one of his strategies to get the multiple bid in his client's favor, saying, we're going to do a 10-day due diligence and we're going to do a 15-day close. Right. Now, not every seller may want that, but it may be very attractive to a lot of sellers going, wow, we can get this thing done quickly. Like, we're already half moved anyway. Let's get it done.
Yeah, and one of our classes, I don't even remember, but the talk was it's coming down the pike from Raleigh. People are starting to go in with no due diligence period.
Yeah.
I've done
just
it.
Waving that.
Wow.
I've done
just
it.
to get the deal done.
And it's tough. It's definitely you're strategizing. But again, if you've experienced a lot of pitfalls over the years, you're protecting your buyer or seller at every angle. So... But these are things that are coming.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. All right. So let's kind of hit the next one, which is the seller needs to consider the loan program that the buyer is using. Now that sounds crazy, doesn't it? If you're thinking about selling your house, and these folks, obviously these ladies want to help sell your house and get it listing on the market, but so the seller actually needs to look carefully at the type of financing on the pre-approval or pre-qualification letter.
And before you answer that, Tracey, so let's go back two steps. What about the seller and the program they did?
Okay.
Because
that's another one that's biting a lot of people now.
Biting or just needs to be.
We forgot that we have down payment assistance money we have to pay back because we haven't been here for X number of years.
And if we don't think to ask that question when we're doing the listing presentation and we're doing the seller net sheet, then that can be huge.
It can affect how much they're going to net if money has to be paid back to another party.
Yeah, there's all rules and regulations and guidelines on how that money gets paid back if and when and so forth. So now we check that box. Then you talk about.
Why don't you hit why does the seller need to understand the financing terms on the buyer's letter?
Well, there's different, and it was funny because we had a newer agent that we were doing a training class with, and she said, I just advise my seller to go with the highest price. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Why would you do that? Like, there's so many other things that are involved in that you have to take into consideration. So literally the last seller that we represented, we had multiple offers, and we had 5 multiple offers, and I printed them out and we laid them on the table, and we just went number by number by number, looking at everything.
Looking at the items that we're going through right now.
Looking at all the items, yeah. And the loan program was huge, down payment versus FHA versus conventional. There's different guidelines with that. There's different time frames with that. Appraisals come into with an appraisal sticking with the property. So there's a lot of different things that have to be considered. So that's why it's important too that you have a good agent that knows what they're doing, because you can't just say go with the highest price.
That looks good.
That looks good.
So you ready for this one? I had a realtor call me this week, and where we were just on the phone, and she vented, about a situation I'm not helping her with it, but she said, oh my gosh, I have this deal. And it was a veteran who was trying to purchase the listing that she had. She already put in the notes that they cannot come down on the price. The seller will not sell if it doesn't appraise. And she was concerned about it not appraising. She said 5 weeks in, we still don't have the VA appraisal back. Because VA appraisers take longer,
so much longer
than a regular conventional or FHA appraiser. Now, she knew right up front. She was getting to the point where she's going, I warned everybody. I tried to tell the agent on the buy side that this is probably not going to work out. But they just still insisted. They still insisted. And so she was just frustrated, right? And so that's an example of where a seller knew their situation and the financing didn't really line up with what their needs were, but the offer went through anyway, and she's now dealing with the ramifications. She said, but the good news is I have a cash offer behind it.
There you go.
But she's waited 5 weeks to wait, and still hasn't gotten the appraisal in.
And that's what we do, and it's not to be negative. It's just that you're setting your seller up. You're either going to set them up in a positive situation, or you're setting them up for a negative situation. So you have to just let them know what can happen with each one of these options, and then it's ultimately their decision, but we've done our job.
Exactly. So we're going to roll to number 7. We got to get the rest of these in here before we hit our next break. So You had mentioned that personalized offers is something that a seller may be in a situation that they have to consider when accepting the offer. What does a personalized offer mean?
So I just had a buyer do that within the last 6 months, and she called me the night before we were putting the offer in. She says, "Do you think I should write something up?" And I said, "Gee, I don't know. There's going to be 12 other offers. I don't know, but I thought about it, and I was like, go ahead, do it. Just make it simple, but pointed. Why that house? Why? Boy, she came out with a letter talking about raising her family there. She could see the care and the love that this seller had put into their home and over the course of time, and having to sell it must be difficult, but that they were ready to take on, so, and it worked. I mean, I can't say that was the deciding component, but
it definitely impacted.
We won the bid.
Yeah, there you go. So that's a personalized offer, really, and that's just either presenting some sort of note, a letter, a video, whatever it might be, helping the seller get a good feel of who you are and that you're going to take care of that home. Because in many cases, when you leave a house, there are emotional strings tied to that property. So, all right, let's go to number 8. Seller contributions or seller paid closing costs. We say contributions. So talk to me about how requesting of seller closing costs can impact the seller's decision.
It can affect it very negatively, especially if there's...
It's not usually a positive.
It's not usually a positive. The seller, isn't really happy when they get the offer and then they're asked to pay $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in closing costs, especially if there's numerous offers.
Right.
So that is definitely going to be, it's going to impact that offer negatively if we see something like that in most cases. I'm not saying, once again, depending on the situation, there are some sellers that are still out there paying closing costs, but right now with multiple offers, it's tough to get a deal like that.
It's definitely less common.
Sure.
And I'm going to quickly jump in. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshatar. And if you've heard anything that you've liked, you're welcome to give me a call or shoot me a text message. Say, I need Tracey or Becky to help me list my home. My number is 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. All right, let's go to the last one, which is price. So obviously the seller needs to understand how to accept the best offer, and it's not always about price, but is price always the determining factor?
I mean, price is a huge factor, obviously, but once again, even if you're coming in over list price, then we have to add everything back in. Are you asking for a home warranty? Are you asking for the refrigerator, washer, and dryer? Are you asking for $3,000 in closing costs? Are you needing a 60-day close when the seller wants to be out in 30? It all depends. So it's like we're hitting a moving target.
And going back to your example, Chris, with the VA loan,
yeah.
I mean, so yeah, you offer above and beyond, and now you tell your seller, "Oh, you're way over here. You're good." What if it doesn't appraise? Now
Right.
we've tied everything up. Everybody's aggravated and disgusted, and the appraisal's taken forever. It's not always the best choice if your sellers need to go. If they need to go and they need to get the best deal they can get, that's more important.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so your job really is to then go back to your seller that you represent and literally sift through all of these components that we're talking about and determine with them what's most important, right? Which is best, what's most important. So surprisingly, if you are thinking of selling your home here, the highest bid might not always be the best offer.
Nope.
But that's just kind of how people are trained. Like, what are we getting? How much, there's value in other components of the transaction in addition to just the sales price. So, wow, interesting topic today. Really glad that we were able to get through this. So let me ask you this. Would you mind just sharing with our listeners real quick about the incentive in case somebody wants to buy or sell with you? You have a small little incentive that you'd like to offer.
Okay, we're going to, outside of just the value of what we know, what we do, the time we're going to take to make sure that the outcome is the best for your interests, that we would do $500 toward the home warranty or to credit it toward the closing costs.
So that could work for a buyer closing costs or a seller for a home warranty or whatever it might be. So very good. That's a very generous offer. I think really at the end of the day, I want our Reshair listeners to value you. And if you are listening and you have a friend, a neighbor, somebody that you know has a job change and they're getting ready to move, please give me a call, 704-277-4463, or text me. And all I need from you is I need Tracey or I need Becky. That's all. You just text me, and then I will make sure at the beginning of the week they will reach out to you or someone that you know to help take care of your real estate needs. So, ladies, thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks, Chris.
It's been great to have you, and we'd love to have you back in the future if you're cool with that.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'd love it.
All right, great. So coming up next right here before our break, we've got Adam Kunda with National Credit Care going to be talking about some credit tips for us. So please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
When choosing an insurance agency, you want a company you can trust. We are an independent insurance agency that can protect your personal assets, including your home, your business assets, as well as health and insurance needs. A true one-stop solution provider. We do not work for an insurance company. We work for you. As an independent insurance agency, our duty is to our clients' best interests. It is our responsibility to provide you the best service and the best coverage at the best possible price. You will have the added benefit of working with agents who understand your needs. After visiting our website, we will schedule an exploratory appointment to discuss your specific needs. Please visit our website at www.movementinsurance.com. That's www.movementinsurance.com.
Welcome back to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshaar, licensed loan officer with Movement Mortgage. You've probably been listening to a great segment we had earlier. We're going to slide another new direction here and talk a little bit about credit repair, credit counseling, all those things. We're going to talk about credit, basically, and how to get professional help. And I'm not going to do this alone. I'm going to make sure that you are introduced to our show expert contributor, Adam Kunda, with National Credit Care. Adam, welcome back.
Hey, Chris. Thanks so much for having me again.
I'm constantly getting these titles mixed up, man.
That's all right.
You
There's
gotta
too
help
many
me.
titles nowadays.
I know, exactly. So technically, tell me, you are a licensed credit professional. Is that what you call?
I'm a licensed credit professional, credit counselor.
Credit
lots
counselor.
of different terminologies. Yes, sir. I'm here to help just understand this crazy credit scoring system that we have. I'm an economics major with a great business sense, and for about 7 years been diving into the mathematics behind the algorithm or mathematical formula that generates this credit score to help you understand it.
Hold on to your chair, folks, because this guy knows algorithms. I can't keep up with them, but that's why we have you on as the expert here. So,
Thank you.
You know, one of the things that I wanted to really bring to our listeners today was really understanding why one of my clients or one of our listeners, one of our followers here on Reshair Radio would consider using a credit repair professional, licensed professional such as yourself.
Sure.
And I'd come up with this analogy when I had a customer, really just in the recent weeks, that had called me and said, I really would like to get my life back on track, but I know my credit score is not good. And sort of off the top of my head, what can you do? She said. And I said, well, we analyzed the credit and we looked at it, and I said, you're really going to need some credit repair. And I said, you can try to do it on your own. I said, but it's kind of like brushing your teeth at home. Yeah, you can kind of keep your teeth clean when you brush them on your own. But we all know that after we've been in that dentist chair and we've got a full professional cleaning from a licensed professional dentist or a dental assistant, we walk out of there and you're like, oh man, my teeth are great. This feels good.
You can feel it.
You can really feel the difference, right? And to me, the analogy, at least it worked for that customer, because I said, you can try to clean your own credit, right? Mm-hmm. But it's like having your teeth clean. Yeah, you can try to clean your own teeth as well, but you're not going to likely get the same exact results.
For sure.
If you're not using a professional who knows the tricks, the trades, has the right tools, techniques, the knowledge, experience, all of that combined, because that's what they do every day, all day.
For sure.
Right?
And I don't know about you, Chris, but when I'm looking in a mirror, even just trying to comb my hair, everything is backwards and my body doesn't go well. So if I was trying to clean my teeth in a mirror, definitely wouldn't go
exactly.
be bleeding a good bit.
There you go. So I weave into that analogy, and I really want our listeners to understand. We probably have a bunch of more analogies that we're going to talk about today, but really I struggle because the customer calls and says, I want to buy a home. That is their goal. But they get stuck at, but my credit isn't where it needs to be. I give them counsel on what they should do. And I know you can't lead every horse to the water and you can make them drink, but help our listeners. Really, I want to be able to have our listeners listen to this show again in the future and understand really why should they use a licensed credit professional.
Let me start by asking you a question. How many times have you seen somebody go attempt to fix their credit on their own and call you back with that completed?
Very few.
Very few.
Okay. And
Correct.
more than likely, it's you tried to help me last year. Okay. And I want to see if my score's gotten any better.
And what have they done to make their score
better?
better?
What have they have done to make their score better? In most cases, nothing. Okay. Adam, here's the key part that most people aren't thinking about. That same house that was $140,000 last year, okay, now may be $150,000 or $60,000 this year.
Right.
And the credit is in the same exact boat, but they were hesitant to invest, okay? And I'm not going to say spend because it's invest.
Very much.
Okay, anywhere from $300 to $600 over a 6-month window to get that credit score boosted, okay? There's no guaranteed results in what we're talking about today. I'm not here to sell you that you just pay money and your score will go up. That's not how it works, okay?
You're paying for a roadmap. You're paying for a set of instructions, right? So the same way you're going to a dentist and seeking that professional care, you're seeking professional advice and a roadmap from me. I've been studying the models for 7 years, and I can guarantee you that the mathematics is not that easy to understand. We can go online and we can Google or just search how to do this, and it's going to give us some answers out there. Some of them I read are really, really wrong. Some of them I read are very specific to situation A, but not specific to situation B.
Sure.
So if we go and we do what we think is right for situation A, and we needed situation B's prescription, it's not going to get us where we need to go. So one of the best things that I can do is expel any myth that's out there, anything that you think may be accurate about credit scoring. I'll be able to tell you if it's right or wrong. And I'll give you the best information on what we can do to use this information for us to get a better score. And realistically, that's the biggest part of what I can offer a client is just knowledge.
Perfect. So I want you to dispel one of the biggest myths that I see that actually I struggle with when clients try to do their own fixing, and that is when I pay my collection, my score will go up.
Okay. That will never be the case. There's not anything that can be paid on a credit report that would be considered a collection, something that would be negative mark on the report that is going to increase the score. And again, this system is
Wait. So you're saying if I have a $300 medical collection and I pay it to zero, my score's not going to go up?
There is no chance that it is going to go up.
But that doesn't make sense.
And I agree with you. And again, one of the things I'll always tell you is I didn't write these rules, right?
Right.
I wish I could talk to the person who did, because I agree. There is no logical sense to say that you make right on your debt and they're going to take away the credit scoring points. Really, the mathematics behind it are pretty simple. There is a 7-year statute of limitations on how long something can be on your credit report. This is a 7 years based off of the date of our activity. So the client's activity with that. When did they accrue the collection is most likely the date of last activity, because there hasn't been any activity since that date that it got accrued.
Right, because it went to collection and there you go.
Yeah, so we're looking at the 7-year window, and every day from today until year 7, the end of year 7, we have gotten incrementally the same amount of points back. So if the point drop initially was 40 points, it's going to take 7 years to get these 40 points back. So let's just say we're halfway through. We're 3.5 years in. We're looking at getting 20 of the 40 points back, because that's halfway from today and the end of year 7. Okay, let's make a payment. Now we have new activity. So the 3.5 years of point gain that we have achieved is now erased, and then we drop all the way back down to a 7-year statute of limitation.
You're killing me.
I know.
And you understand that really I'm just reflecting what the customer is saying to me, because I'm reporting the same information. I understand this process. Customers really don't.
Right. No, understand, Chris. And it's a problem, because I can picture the conversation that the families are having. Let's get ready to do a loan with Chris. Let's pay off these collections.
Yeah.
Honey, do you agree? Yeah, I agree.
Let's get it done.
And then they pay. And one of the things that we have always kind of stressed is that dealing with a professional on both sides is helpful. You are able to identify these paid off collections as being something hurting the score, but actually something that's also very easy to alleviate from the report. Trust me, if you are asking me to remove a $20,000 medical collection, I am going to have a much harder time, pretty much impossible to do, than if it was a paid off collection. It'd be a little bit easier to work with that creditor because they're not owed any more money.
Right. Makes sense.
For sure.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that, when we talk about, why use a licensed credit professional such as yourself, you understand these techniques. Okay. What I tell people is I'm busy taking another application the minute I hang up the phone, and I take anywhere from 5 to 10 new customers every single day.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's a lot of customers to be dealing with. I need good professionals like you to be able to say, this is exactly what you need to do to execute to potentially improve your credit score. I can tell them what they need to do about mortgage guidelines, but I mentioned in previous shows, my nickname is the Mortgage Genius. It is not the mortgage or the credit genius, right? It's not the credit genius. I need a professional to say, hey, there actually is a way in some cases to get a federal tax lien that's been paid removed off of the report.
For sure.
I know that there is, and you've rattled off, it's Form 8526 on the federal government website, and you can link here and pull it down and fill it out, and then it takes about this much time. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. Yep. Right, and you could probably tell our listeners now how to do that. But
12277 IRS form 12277.
Oh, there you go. See, folks. I mean, I don't remember all this stuff, but that's why we've got Adam on the docket.
Let's talk analogies for a second, if we want to talk about it. You, the client, are the ball, and we have a bunch of professionals. We've got Chris who can throw the ball. We've got myself who can rock a ball, and we're trying to get it to the end zone. But realistically, most people don't know the rules of the game that they're playing, and that's what I've been studying. I've been studying the rules, so Chris and I know how to get you to the end zone or into that home that you choose.
Absolutely.
And without knowing the rules, we're essentially just Chris and I tossing a ball back and forth, and you're not progressing. Or if you're doing this on your own, you're really trying to get a ball to the end zone with really any assistance, and that's not the easiest way to do it, I can guarantee.
Yeah, against a team of guidelines that you have to fit around.
Correct, right?
In the credit world and the mortgage world.
Correct, yeah. So the biggest guarantee I can give you is your credit score is going to stay the exact same if you do nothing, right?
Yep.
If you work with me in any way, in any facet, you listen to any of my prescriptions that I give you specific to your situation, we will get the score up. It's just a matter of how many you execute, how fast can you do them, and that's what I'm going to help you out with doing so that you know what's the best thing for you. We don't want to be wasting money on stuff that's going to get us no points, like going and getting an installment loan. We want to be getting revolving accounts, which are really important, and that's what I'm here to help you do, is decipher what is the easiest way to do this and what is the hardest way, because we're going to do it the easiest way.
Well, I really like your game analogy. I think at the end of the day, if you're a customer and you're thinking about, well, I think I can do some of these on my own, what's going to also be the quickest way to get you there is when you're working with that professional, right?
For sure.
Because if you go back to that initial analogy using the brushing of the teeth, if you don't have the right tools to really deep clean, it's going to take you way longer to do it with inaccurate tools, without the right rules, without the experience. So
be brushing for a really long time.
Exactly. Brushing for a long time. So having to just naturally dispute on your own and try to do field letters and understand the tricks. I mean, half the time, you guys understand even the back doors to calling Equifax and Experian and how to get a hold of them and how to get a hold of these creditors and try this line. I mean, these people have 800 numbers that seem to go nowhere. It's like you're connecting to Mars. You get, voicemail, or you don't get anywhere. It's like, I got to call Adam to get these numbers, because the one numbers that's reporting here on the website, nobody answers. You can't get anywhere.
And have you ever seen a credit report where a collection is listed? Somebody owes somebody $100 and the creditor is listed as NA or unknown?
Right.
Correct. This is true examples of what a credit report looks like. So who do you call when
Who
it says
do you
NA
call? Exactly.
or unknown?
I call Adam.
Thank you. And that's who you should be calling.
That's right.
For sure.
So we're actually about running out of time here on this show. Adam, it's always great to have you on the show as our expert contributor. And just remind you that if you've got credit, it's not perfect, get connected with Adam. You need a licensed credit professional, credit repair specialist that can really help you. You can try it on your own, but I think you're going to get way faster. People know the rules, and so that you can achieve home ownership and home values. Aren't hopefully you're beating the pace at which the values are going up. Right, we got to get you there fast. So. Again, my name is Chris Reshair. I'm your show host of Reshair Radio. We appreciate you listening to the show each and every week. if you need to get a hold of me for any reason about the services that we provide, I can connect you with Adam, or even on my side, on the mortgage side, you can call me at 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. Again, show can be listened back at reshairradio.com, reshairradio.com. Anything that you hear, you can listen there. And if you need mortgage assistance, you need to do an application, we can be found at themortgagegenius.com. That's my personal website, themortgagegenius.com. Adam, thanks for having you again on the show. It's great to have you as always, and we're signing off for the week. Have a great one, folks.
Thanks, Chris.
You've been listening to Reshair with Chris Reshatar, a seasoned licensed mortgage consultant with Movement Mortgage, equal housing lender. Originator license number 117266. Learn more online at themortgagegenius.com.